Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I'm here with my February reading plans. So as usual, there are a ton of wonderful readathons happening in the next month, and I'm participating in quite a few of them. You guys know that I just really enjoy readathons, and I'm still working out like the perfect way that I want to do these kinds of TBRs, because I really like doubling up with challenges, and so sometimes I think it gets kind of confusing when I go just by book, but I also feel like if I go by readathon, then it's like you're seeing the same books over and over, so I'm still working out how I want to do that. Any suggestions would be welcome. But I'm going to be talking about some books that I hope to read for February, Adultathon, Backlist Bookathon, and Blackathon. And initially I had pulled a few of the books by Black authors from my 2020 Reading Women Challenge TBR. I had already been planning on reading those, and then I realized that Blackathon was happening again this year, and with just a few minor modifications or additions, I could actually participate in that one too. I will be doing the SFF prompt set, so I'm really excited about that. So let's just start talking about the books. I'm going to start off with the February picks. And of course, I will link all of the readathon information down below, including announcements and dates and the hosts and everything. So let's start with our February picks. The first one, and the one that is probably going to hit the most challenges for me, is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I am finally going to be reading this. This is the third book and the final book in the Folk of the Air series. I have really loved the other two, and I've kind of been putting this one off for no good reason. I just wanted to be in like exactly the right mood for it, and I'm expecting to really enjoy it. So the ones I'm going to be hitting with this are completing a series or trilogy, a Fae plus human romance, Seelie and Unseelie courts, because they actually do use that name, I think, in this series, YA or middle grade, and new release, which Sarah Jane says would be like within the last 3 months is kind of how she's counting at. And I can't wait to get to this. I'm excited. I have heard kind of mixed things about it, which is another reason I wanted to be in like the perfect mood for this book. So we'll see what happens. And the next prompt I'm feeling is to reread a Fae book, and I will be picking Swift by R.J. Anderson, and I am so excited about this because this and the sequel, I don't remember what the name of the series is, but I love them. They're some of my favorite fantasy or fairy books, and they have been out of print for a really long time. I had to like order these from a third-party seller and everything. And I just recently found out that the books have been, they're going to be republished, and we're also getting a third novel in the series, and I am just unbelievably excited about that. I was so sad that these were out of print, and that's one of the reasons I don't talk about them a lot on my channel, because I didn't feel like that would be fair, you know, since they're really hard to find, but now I feel like I can, and I'm really excited to reread these, and I actually want to read this and the sequel and hopefully do a series review for it to get people to see if it's something they might want to pick up in time for the third book to be released. The next prompt that I'm going to be filling is to read a book that you have had on your TBR for 6+ months, and this one is probably for a lot longer than that, and that is The Slanted Worlds by Catherine Fisher, which is the second book in the Obsidian Mirror series. First off, I absolutely adore these paperback edition covers. I think they are so pretty. But I read the Obsidian Mirror, was it 2 years ago now? And it was interesting. Like I really liked some of it, but it was like one of the most bizarre books I've ever read, and I'm a little nervous. I've forgotten a lot of stuff. But honestly, there was so much stuff going on that I kind of feel like it won't matter. So hopefully I can just jump into this book and be fine. But it's like, there are Fae obviously, which is why I'm counting it for this readathon, but there's like also this time travel subplot, and it's kind of one of those books where there's like 2 or 3 different stories that are all kind of colliding at the same time. And I don't, like I said, don't remember a lot from the first book, but I have book 2 and 3. They've been sitting on my shelf for years now, and I just need to read them. I actually have another Holly Black novel on this list, and that is Heart of the Moors. This is a Maleficent story, and I think it's set after the events of the first movie, and probably before the events of the second one, which will be coming out. And this is something that I've been anticipating. I don't really know how I feel about books that are based on movies or that are set in the world of movies, because I haven't really read a lot of them before, but this one I'm interested in because I really loved the Maleficent movie and I really enjoy Holly Black's writing, so I'm excited to see how this one turns out. And that one I'm not counting for a specific challenge, but it will count towards my like 3+ genres that I want to read, which can be like subgenres within fantasy, and it'll also count towards how many Fae books I read total. The next book I have counts for the All But a Name prompt, so this is like when there are creatures who are basically Fae, but they don't call them Fae, and also to read a book in less than 24 hours. And this one is Piper by Jay Asher and Jessica Freeberg, illustrated by Jeff Stokely. So this is like a Pied Piper sort of retelling, and I think it features like a toxic relationship that is like explored and called out, and because it's so short, I do think I can read this in a day, although graphic novels are they're never as like short and quick as I feel like they are for other people. For some reason it's a format that's hard for me to follow unless I really concentrate, but I do still think I could achieve this one. And I also, another reason I want to read this is because I don't really want to support Jay Asher. He's a really not great person, and I kind of want to read this so I know if I don't even like it, I can get rid of it and stop worrying about it. Or if I do like it, I can at least say like, hey, if you already have this lying around, it might be worth picking up. But I don't think, like, even if I love this, I don't think I'm going to say like, yeah, everyone go out and buy this novel. Because again, I just don't really personally want to support this guy, which is unfortunate when there are other people involved in a project. But I also want to get to Heart of the Fae by Emma Hamm, and this was actually a present from my lovely friend Taylor from Page Screen Taylor, and I've been really wanting to get to this for a while. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling with Celtic influences, and of course there are fae. And this counts for the adult book and a new author, because I have not read anything by Emma Hamm before. I'm hoping to really enjoy this book because I think it's like a 5 or 6 book series. And the last fae book that I officially have on my TBR, although I have some ideas for other ones I can read, is Moonlight and Ashes by Sophie Mason, or Masson. This is one of the authors that I featured in that Authors I Think I Will Love video, and I still haven't gotten to her books. There's 2 authors on that list I haven't read yet, and this is a great opportunity, I figured, to read one. This is a Cinderella retelling, and this one is kind of loosely fills a February prompt, because I do think there is a fairy godmother in this story, and I know that's not exactly what February is about, but I'm gonna count it because, as Sarah Jane said, the fae are tricky. They don't lie, but they do bend the rules. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so now we're going to get into kind of the second half of this TBR, which is the Adultathon, Backlist, and Blackathon books. There's a lot of overlap between these, and I managed to fill like all of the prompts with only a few books. So even though this sounds like a very ambitious TBR, and if I'm being honest with myself, it kind of is, it's not as ambitious as it could have been. So I have actually managed to fill the Adultathon prompts with only 3 books. I am pretty proud of myself for that. And the first book I have is actually going to count for 4 of those prompts, and that is Monday, Don't We Wish It Was Still Yesterday? Read a historical fiction or classic. Wednesday, which is Happy Hump Day. It's a long week. Read a book with 350 or more pages. Thursday, Let's Pretend It's Friday. Adults can have fun too. Read a book by an author you love or a sequel to a series you love. I really like that prompt, by the way. And Sunday, The Day to Chill at Home with a Good Film. Read a book that has a film adaptation. And the book I'm using to fill all of those is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This is going to be our Austen Anonymous book for February. So I'm hitting multiple birds with this stone. That is such a weird expression. I kind of wish there was a better way to say that, but we're gonna move on. And Jane Austen is an author who I obviously really love, and I think I might try and watch the adaptation that is not the Emma Thompson one. Even though I absolutely adore that movie, I feel like that's one I usually end up watching. I'd like to watch that one. The next book I want to read for Adultathon is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. This is actually one of the initial picks I had for Black History Month and pulling from my 2020 Reading Women Challenge. And this is going to count for Tuesday and Friday. So Tuesday is it still only the start of the week? Black coffee, please. Read a book with dark themes. And Friday is We Survived the Week. Give your eyes a rest. Listen to an audiobook or read a book under 100 pages. And An American Marriage, I believe, follows a Black couple, and I believe the husband, I think he is put in jail for something, a crime that he didn't commit. So he's in jail for many years, and then he actually gets released. And at this point, I think his wife is actually, she's starting to get involved with somebody else, possibly, and I think it might be one of her husband's friends. I don't know. I've just heard really wonderful things about this book, and that it's a really poignant look at the American justice system in particular. So I think that one is going to be really interesting, and like I said, I am going to be trying the audiobook for that one. And then for Saturday, the prompt is Time to Live It Up with Friends, buddy read something. Or if you're a lone wolf, read something with the word night, dream, or moon in the series or book title. And that one I am going to be buddy reading A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I'm going to be buddy reading this with Nina from Corners of a Bookshelf. We've both been meaning to get to this book for a very long time. I actually talked about this in my books on my Goodreads TBR the longest. And yeah, it's been a while that I've been meaning to get to this book. And for the Backlist Bookathon, like I said, I have a lot of doubling up on this list, which makes me very happy. The first prompt is to read a backlist title published before January 2020. I can basically count any of the books I'm reading for that. The second one is to read a book that was an older anticipated release. And I'm going to go back to Heart of the Moors by Holly Black, because I remember being excited about that book for a while. I think it came out in the fall of last year. And I remember one of the reasons I was looking forward to it is because it would kind of tide me over until Queen of Nothing came out. And then I didn't read Queen of Nothing yet, so I feel like that book just kind of dropped off my radar, but I currently have it checked out from my library, and I really, really want to get to it. Third prompt is to read a book that has been under TBR for at least 6 months, and we're going to be using A Tale of Two Cities for that one as well. The fifth prompt is to read, reread, or completely unhaul a book you're still not sure you want to keep on your shelf. And that's another one I'm doubling up on, and that is Piper. And that is for the reason I talked about earlier, which is I don't want to support Jay Asher, and I just kind of want to know how I feel about this. So if I don't even like it, I can get rid of it, and that's the end of it. But if I do like it, like I said, I probably still won't promote the book, but I could at least mention on my channel that, like, if you already have this lying around, you know, it might be worth reading. But yeah, I just kind of want to get this out of my life one way or another, which again is sad because I was actually really excited about reading this graphic novel, but sometimes people are trash. The sixth prompt is to read that book you've been wanting to read but haven't gotten around to for whatever reason. No excuses this time. And that one I have picked The Queen of Nothing. Yeah, I just really need to get to this because the longer it goes on, the more scared I am that I'm going to get spoiled, like I did for The Wicked King, and I am still mad about that, so I think it's time I actually read it. The seventh prompt is to read the book that has been on your TBR the longest, and that's another one that A Tale of Two Cities definitely counts for. It is literally the oldest book on my Goodreads TBR, so yeah. Number 8 is read a book you've been avoiding because it intimidates you. And this is when we start getting into my Blackathon picks because I have 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin, and I have kind of felt a little intimidated by this book. N.K. Jemisin is a very, very beloved SFF author. I've heard wonderful things about her and I definitely want to try her work, but I have been a little nervous because it's like, what if I don't like her stuff? But this series does really, really appeal to me. It's very based in, I think, African folklore and mythology. Najiri from Onyx Pages talks about it so highly, so I'm excited about this. Another reason it was kind of intimidating me is I've heard that her books are really, really heavy, like emotionally, which sounds like they will make for an incredibly compelling story, but it's sometimes hard to make yourself pick up a book like that. Prompt 9 is to read a book that you've been avoiding because of mixed or bad reviews. And going back to my February TBR, I have Moonlight and Ashes by Sophie Masson. I even talked about this in the Authors I Think I Will Love video, but the little that I have heard about her novels has been kind of negative. But the premise of this and of her other books really do sound like things I'm going to enjoy, so I hope I do. And the last Backlist Bookathon prompt is to read a book that was a gift or recommendation that you're not sure you're going to like. I think that's what the prompt is. And I have A Kiss at Midnight by Eloisa James. This is a Cinderella-inspired adult romance novel. And if you guys have been watching my wrap-ups, you probably know that my foray into the adult romance genre has been very unfortunate so far, so that's why I'm kind of nervous about this one. But my friend Giselle really loved this book, and I think she specifically recommended it to me when she knew I was having a hard time getting into romance or finding romance that I enjoyed. So hopefully I do end up enjoying it, but yeah, I've definitely been putting this book off. I actually purchased this recently in my local used bookstore, but it has been on my TBR for quite a while. So those are all the Backlist books. By the way, I think this one actually starts January 15th and then it goes through February 15th, but I'm probably going to do most of my reading for this readathon in February because again, it does cross over with so many other readathons. And finishing up with my picks for Blackathon, as I said, I'm doing the Team SFF challenges, and the first one is Janelle Monáe. Read an LGBTQIA+ SFF book with a Black protagonist, and this is one I'm also going to be doubling up with, and that is The 100,000 Kingdoms. I read reviews, and I think one of the lead characters is queer, so that's what I'm counting this for, and I'm also counting it for the next question, which is Nadia Korafor, a work of Afrofuturism centering a complex and advanced society. And I actually talk about that in my Reading Women challenge, that from the definitions I found of Afrofuturism, a lot of times it is used for science fiction, but I have seen a few that actually reference fantasy elements counting for Afrofuturism or African futurism as well. The David F. Walker prompt is to read an SFF comic or graphic novel by a Black author with a Black protagonist, and this one I haven't actually picked something for. One of the ways I hope to do my readathon TBRs or reading plans in a way that kind of keeps me able to mood read a little bit is I'm going to keep open a few prompts that I haven't actually picked books for, so I'm just going to kind of see what I'm in the mood for. And finally, for the Danielle Clayton prompt, to read an SFF book with a cunning and ambitious Black protagonist. I have picked one that I don't know if this is cheating or if it's the perfect pick for this one, because it actually is by Danielle Clayton, and that is The Bells. This is the first book in, I think it's a trilogy now, that is, I think, like New Orleans inspired historical fantasy. All of the magic is centered around beauty and making characters beautiful, and I believe our main character, she gets tapped to be the belle for, I think, like the royal family or the equivalent of the royal family. She gets asked or commanded to use her powers for things that bells are not supposed to do. And I think she kind of ends up getting pulled into this world of politics and intrigue. I think she does end up becoming very ambitious. I feel like I'm giving the synopsis all out of order, but in this world, everybody is born gray or colorless, and bells are the only ones born with color, and they are the only ones that have the ability to bring color to other people. I've heard kind of mixed things about this book, but I have been really wanting to get to it for a long time. I'm really fascinated by magic that does center on beauty and physical appearance. I feel like there are a lot of great opportunities for social commentary on beauty standards, and I'm really interested to see how that works in this book. Okay, everybody, so those are my very ambitious February reading plans. It's a lot of books. I know it's a lot, but I think with all the doubling up I did, it's not too overpowering. We'll see. But a lot of these are ones that I am so excited to get to, that I've been wanting to get to for a while. So for that reason, I'm thinking that it won't be too much of a burden, you know, to have all of these set books that I want to get to. Just let me know if you guys are participating in any of these readathons. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!